record. And we have Melih Can from Koç University, who will be teaching us how PyCharm works. Sorry, not PyCharm, Jupyter works. So Melih Can, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for doing this.
Can you hear me well?
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. So hello everyone. I'm going to first let me share my screen. Okay. So I have created a Jupyter notebook to explain Jupyter notebook. So I will actually I'm not only going to teach Jupyter notebook. I'm also going to, as you have written in your email, some errors in Python, importing and exporting data from CSV and JSON files in Python. But I will do all of them inside Jupyter notebook. And to be able to use Jupyter notebook, one of the best methods is to install Anaconda. Anaconda is a software package that allows you to easily install and manage Python packages and environments. I will go over them. I will explain what they are. But basically, it's better to install Anaconda and then use whatever it provides. It has Jupyter Notebook. It has some other IDEs like Spider, VS Code, etc. But it allows you to easily manage your packages and environments and create via Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Lab, create public notebooks. And it has a lot of packages, especially for data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So here is the link to download Anaconda. First, let me share it on Zoom chat. Hocam, shall we wait for people to install Anaconda?
Yes, please. Yes,
Okay.
please, because both Fuat and Ahmet, when they taught Python and R, they went very fast. And as a result, we had a lot of people like not following. So let's wait.
Okay, sure.
Because I'm downloading as well right now.
Okay. So that's the link. So you have a download button there. You can just click on that. It should be able to understand your operating system, whether you are using Windows or Mac. But if it is somehow mistaken, you can click here, get additional installers, and you can choose whatever your operating system you are using, Windows, Mac, or Linux. Okay, then let's wait for a few minutes for you to install Anaconda on your computers.
Yeah, let's follow like in real time because
okay,
it's when people cannot download or cannot do something, they realize that they can't do this way later when it's too late to do these things. So bootcamp is still okay when we can have basic problems, but when I don't know, Oli Bellinger teaches us how to get, I don't know, real-time NASA satellite data and open that in Python. It's too late to say that, oh, I can't set up Python or I don't have Python installed. That would be too late. So right now it's still a good time to have these basic questions.
Yeah, sure. So I have already installed Anaconda, so I didn't thought of like reinstalling it. But
yeah,
maybe I can wait, and if anyone has any problems, they can share their screen, can get it together.
3.5 gigabytes. This is such a large interface.
Right. And actually, I didn't mention, but there's also another option called Miniconda. So it has not all the programs that Anaconda has, but the most basic ones, I guess. maybe if you have problem installing Anaconda, if you don't have enough space, you may try Miniconda. Let me also search and share that. And also, I have shared the documentation over the course of this tutorial. I will share many documentations with you. Documentations is the best way to learn how to do something. I'm going to share some pages from Python documentation and other libraries, etc. I only shared the Anaconda documentation for now.
So if I download Miniconda, what can't I do compared to Anaconda?
I'm not sure. Maybe we can check together.
Oh, okay. It's finished downloading and installing on my computer.
As far as I understand, Miniconda requires you to use the command line. Anaconda has this graphical user interface that I'm going to mention.
Okay.
Anaconda Navigator. To be able to use Miniconda, you should write some commands on the command line that it provides.
And Miniconda doesn't have those 250 standard data science and machine learning packages, I think.
I think it should have the most important ones like pandas, NumPy, etc. But it may have some.
This will be very new for me as well. I'm so used to PyCharm doing these things, but I feel Anaconda is actually more user-friendly compared to PyCharm. PyCharm, I had a lot of difficulty learning PyCharm because PyCharm, I think, expects you to know Python very well to be able to use it. Have you used PyCharm? PyCharm is for like very crowded projects that are less used for data science and mostly for like building robots and like very engineering oriented IDE PyCharm. So when you use it for example, getting Twitter data, doing data visualization, most of PyCharm is overkill. Like it gives you capabilities that you don't need most of the time. So probably this is going to be much better for me as well. So that's why I just really wanted to do this tutorial today. It's a tutorial for me as well. Okay, so I have Anaconda Navigator in my applications.
Great. We are not going to Anaconda Navigator much, but I'm going to first, I'd like to, I'm still sharing my screen. So basically two ways to use Anaconda is by first Anaconda Navigator, which is a graphical user interface. You can create environments there by clicking on buttons. You can open softwares like Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter Lab, and etc. But you can also use Conda. So when you search for Anaconda prompt, it should come up. So this is a command line, and if you are familiar with Windows or Mac command lines, you can write some commands to do basically the same things with the Anaconda Navigator. So whichever you prefer. If you are not like used to writing commands much, you can use Anaconda Navigator. Then, okay, first let's start with creating and managing environments. Then we will go to Jupyter Notebooks. So what are environments? Environments are basically a bundle of packages that you would like to use on your project. So why you need environments is because certain packages, certain libraries works with certain specific versions of other libraries. Therefore, let's say you have installed a specific version of Pandas, but it may not work with an older version of NumPy. So most of the time, the GitHub repositories are going to specify these are the versions of the libraries that we are going to use in this project. So you have to be aware of that and install your libraries with specific versions, and environments allows you to do that basically. Let's actually, I didn't thought of using Anaconda Navigator to do this. I have described the using Conda prompt, but we can do that together. So let's start with using Anaconda prompt. Let's start with doing this by writing commands. First, if you have all installed, you should be able to find Anaconda prompt on your computer. Let's check and see if anyone has a problem. There should be a program called Anaconda prompt, which will open this like a command line. Has everyone did that?
So are you using a PC or Mac?
I'm using a PC.
Okay. On Mac, it only created an application called Anaconda Navigator and nothing else.
Then it should maybe we should install the other applications inside the Anaconda Navigator. Okay, then I'm opening Anaconda Navigator and we'll go through there.
I'm also double clicking on it. Let's see what happens when I click on Anaconda. So PCs and Macs, usually installing is different sometimes in those. Like I have the same problem often with our Studio and stuff. So differences between PCs and Macs is normal. So
Right.
I'm sometimes I'm going to just talk because I'm a student as well in this class. So I'm representing all students here.
Sure.
When I have a problem, I'm just going to charge in and tell you that I'm having a problem.
Sure. Thank you. Then let's first start with Anaconda Navigator then. Does everyone have Anaconda Navigator installed? Okay. So here are the applications that you should be able to see. You may install some of them.
It is asking me to update Anaconda first thing. It says there's a new version of Anaconda Navigator available. We strongly recommend you to update. So should I do it now?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Okay. Quit Anaconda Navigator. Yes, so that I will allow it to from 240 to 242. It is updating package on root. It's the same with RStudio. Like every month they update RStudio, so I have to download a new RStudio every single month. I hate that. Like when I teach in class, I have such a small period of time to teach something, and it says update RStudio, and I hate it. So, okay, so I'm done. It's launching again.
Okay.
It's important that we do this, like having problems, stopping. It's more beneficial. So it wants me to create an account. Should I create an account?
I don't think so. Yeah. No, you don't need. I haven't. I think I don't have an Anaconda account. If you want to use the, I think they have forums. Like you may need that, but for now, I think we don't need that.
Okay. So you can see actually PyCharm here. Look at the bottom and left of RStudio, right. It says PyCharm Professional. Yeah. So that's what I'm used to using with Python.
Yeah. So Anaconda Navigator is like a distribution that it has all these programs inside it. So you can use whatever you want out of them. So I think maybe this command exe prompt is what I'm looking for. Let me check if Anaconda prompt should have come inside the Anaconda navigator. Okay. If everyone has Anaconda Navigator, let's start with creating environments. So you should be in this Home tab. You should see that these applications are on your base environment, your root environment, and I think you should not have any other environments for now. Let's click on this Environments tab. In here, you see inside your base environments all the packages installed. So these packages comes with Anaconda distribution. I'm also waiting for you to check on your own machines. So there should be many packages installed when you download Anaconda Navigator. On the bottom left, there are several buttons. One is Create. By clicking on that button, you can create an environment. Did you see? Sure, I'm waiting.
Okay. Because the thing with doing online lectures is that we have to look at your screen and then find the same thing on our screen. We have to go slower. I found the Create New Environment tab.
Okay.
Exactly.
Clicked on that button. We can create our environment. You can give a name. For example, I called it SICSS.
Okay.
And then choose. So we are going to use Python. Choose the whatever Python version you want. It's 3.9 is the default for me because I have downloaded Anaconda much earlier. But you can choose the latest one if you want to.
Oh, we have what do I have? I have 3.11.3.
Okay, that's fine. So that's the latest version, I think. That's what I was mentioning. Like, it depends on your project. Whether, for example, you may need to use a library that is older, and it may not work with Python 3.11. So you should be aware of that before starting your project and create your environment in that way. But for now, let's create a temporary project. So choosing whatever Python version is fine. Then, if you have created your environment, it should show up on the left under Search Environments.
It is downloading something and installing something. Okay. It's loading packages.
Yeah, it's probably loading both Python and some necessary packages. Can wait for a few minutes.
I have no idea what these things are. I know what pip is.
Yeah, pip is for installing libraries in Python. I don't know. For example, I see Beautiful Talk, which is for parsing HTMLs for web scraping.
Oh, I don't see that. Probably you downloaded them before.
Maybe. I've actually created this environment for this tutorial, but it may depend on different versions of Python. I don't know.
Yeah, you probably installed them before for other projects, so it's recognizing it not right now. We may have to introduce them in this project, like all of us who are downloading this for the first time. So
right, yeah. So if everyone has created their environments, I should okay. So as I said, Anaconda distribution has many packages. I see when I choose all the, instead of install packages, I have chosen all packages, which says 9,600 packages are available. So you may search for certain packages and see if some of them are installed. So we are going to use pandas and numpy in this tutorial. Let's search for pandas. On the upper right, there's a search packages option.
Sorry.
If it is installed, it should have a tick, a check mark to the left of that library. Sure, waiting.
Okay, it's downloading pandas. I just saw that it's also, I think, downloading NumPy with it.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. Okay.
If you are downloading pandas and NumPy, then that's fine. I have actually thought of explaining these in the prompt, but using Navigator is also fine. If you have installed the libraries, we can move on to the Jupyter Notebook section. We can wait for a few more minutes.
Yeah, let's wait for 1 minute so that everyone has NumPy and pandas as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, I think, has everyone downloaded? Yes, no, maybe.
Okay, I see some thumbs up.
Okay, let's go. Maybe we're recording this, so maybe if people have problem, they can always watch the video.
Sure, yeah. In the meantime, maybe I can show you how to do these the same things on Anaconda prompt. So normally, when you installed Anaconda, there should be a prompt should also have been installed. This is a command line, so I prefer to use this. It's because I can do the same things inside this prompt. First, let me show you how you can check your environments inside this in Anaconda. So the first command is, I have written them right here. It is conda info environments, which will list your environments. So as you can see, I have the base environment. It also shows you the location of that environment inside your machine. I have also created other environments for workshops and for today's tutorial. So to do the same thing, to do the thing that we have did in Anaconda Navigator, you can use conda create command and give it a name, like conda create either double dash name or single dash n, and then give it a name. For example, I called it SICSS temporary temp. So this will create an environment. But if you want to create an environment with a specific version of Python, you can specify that. Like this. And also, if you like to install certain packages in that environment while creating it, you can also specify them. Like I want SciPy. .17.3. So this will create an environment called SICSS temp with Python's 3.9 version installed and SciPy library installed in it. So this is the same thing that we did in Anaconda Navigator. You can do this also in Anaconda prompt. Let me check the chat, then go on. Okay, great. Then its name is different in Mac, right? It is Navigator.
Yes. So Macs don't have prompts. Macs only download Navigator, but in the Navigator, I think we have to find that prompt as well. So right now, for example, I have Navigator, I open Navigator, I don't know how to find the prompt.
Okay. Anyway, so we can move on. We did the same thing in both for Windows users. We have seen how to use it in Anaconda prompt. And for Mac users, we can move on with the Anaconda Navigator. Then you should all have a certain environment that you have created with Python and Pandas and NumPy packages in it. We can move back to Home tab. Then you will see the programs. We are going to use Jupyter Notebook. Have you all seen the Jupyter Notebook program inside your Anaconda Navigator? It should either say install or launch.
Jupyter is here. It says install. I am installing it.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll wait for a few more minutes.
So Melih, I have a question. So Anaconda prompt is, I think, the terminal on Macs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But it is the terminal for Anaconda. It is the terminal is the command. It is the correspondent of command line in Windows. But I mean, Windows has both command line and Anaconda prompt if you have installed Anaconda prompt. So I think Mac should also have a terminal and Anaconda prompt or Anaconda terminal, something like that. But I'm not sure because I haven't used Mac before.
Okay, now I'm asking Stack Overflow. It says you can run Anaconda commands directly from the terminal, just like in Ubuntu. There is no Anaconda prompt in Mac, which means that all prompts, this is very useful for me because
Yeah,
I didn't know this. So it says when you run the terminal, it should act as Anaconda prompt.
that's good to know. Yeah, on Windows there are two different programs.
Oh, okay.
So maybe then you can try writing this command inside terminal conda info environments to see if your environment will come up, the environment you have just created.
Let's see what conda info environments. Okay. Okay, I think.
Murat Cerit, we are looking for Jupyter Notebook. DG is, for now, you can just install in the environment we have created. Yes, Akan Hocam.
I was going to say something. I think yes, it is. It tells me in the terminal. So open Mac terminal. Then when you say conda updates Anaconda Navigator, it updates everything. That is how you make sure that your terminal connects directly to Anaconda.
So
And it takes about like 2 minutes. It updates all of your packages in the Anaconda environment. And then it becomes ready. So now I'm trying your code, conda info.
I mean, just like any kind of conda command have worked, then that means your
works.
terminal works as a conda prompt.
Yes, for Macs, terminal is the conda prompt. This is the biggest revelation I had in the last month. So
For me too, yeah.
yeah, this is good. For Mac users, you have to do it in terminal. Great.
Okay, have everyone installed Jupyter Notebook via Anaconda Navigator? Then you can launch it by clicking the launch button. In the meantime, I can explain what a Jupyter Notebook is. So basically, a notebook is from their documentation. A notebook is a shareable document that combines computer code, plain language descriptions, data, rich visualizations like 3D models, charts, graphs, and figures, and interactive controls. That's true. Like Jupyter Notebooks can do all of that. I will show some of them. I have also put the documentation of Jupyter, not just Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter has a Jupyter Notebook and also a Jupyter Lab. So Jupyter Lab combines both notebook and terminal. So you can actually write terminal commands inside Jupyter Lab. But for now, we will use just Jupyter Notebook. Let me paste the documentation. I will already share. I'm going to share this notebook with you, but still let me share the documentations in the chat. So have everyone opened Jupyter Notebook? You should see a page like this. Let me see. I think you should the root for it depends on wherever your Anaconda Navigator is installed, I think. But you should be able to see your desktop folder. You can go to your desktop, or if you are familiar with your folder structure, you can, I don't know, create an empty folder. That's why I prefer to use command prompt because I can go to whatever folder I want and create my folders in there and run the Jupyter Notebook inside there. But basically, you should be able to see some kind of folder structure in here. And if you are familiar with that folder structure, maybe you can use using your desktop folder. Let's create a new folder from this new button up here, and by clicking on folder, it should create an untitled folder on whatever directory you are in. You can rename it if you want to by clicking on this check box next to it. You can rename it, you can go into it. It's just the same things that you can do with the terminal. Then inside that folder, you should again click on the new button and click Python 3. It will create a new Jupyter Notebook. Have everyone did that?
Let's wait for a minute.
Okay.
Who hasn't done yet? I think I think people are following well. So let's maybe continue.
That's great. Okay. So you have created an empty Jupyter notebook. It should be called untitled. You can give it a name, call it SICSS, Python, etc. I called mine Python Jupyter Basics, for instance. So now we will talk about Jupyter Notebook, how to use it. The first thing you should know is it has two different modes. The first one is command mode, the other one is edit mode. You don't need to remember these names, but basically when you are inside these empty space and when the color is green, you are in edit mode. So these boxes can be either code boxes or markdown. I will come to that, but whatever cell you have, when you are writing something here, then you are in edit mode. For example, right now I'm in edit mode. I'm writing inside this. When you click escape button or this empty white space here, you will move on to the command mode. So now the color is blue. So these are two different modes in Jupyter Notebook, and everything will depend on these modes. So your keyboard shortcuts will depend on whether you are on command mode or edit mode. So these are two different modes. I will come back to them. Also, there are 4 different cell types, and 2 of them are very common. One is code cell, the other one is markdown cell. So let me. Okay. So you can choose whether to use a code cell or a markdown cell from this drop-down menu. So it will first create a code cell. You can just write some Python code in here. Let's write 2 + 2. And command enter, control enter will run that code and will show you the output. So right now this is a code cell. You can write your code in here. I will come to keyboard shortcuts, but for now let's know that pressing B on command mode will create a new code cell under the one you are in right now. You can either press B or there is this plus button here, which will also insert cell below. Let's also see create a markdown. So right now the second one I have created is a code cell. By choosing from this markdown, this drop-down menu, I'm choosing markdown. Then right now I have a markdown cell. In markdown cells, you can write something in a very highly formatted way. So I have created, for example, all these notebooks using markdown. Let me show you what it has. So you can write HTML inside these markdowns. So by using HTML, I have put this image inside my markdown. You can also, for example, make some words bold by using these asterisk signs. You can create URLs, some other things. I think you should be able to see whatever you can do inside these. Let me also share these documentations with you. So this is the documentation for Markdown. And this is documentation for code cells. So you can even write, let me check. So you can use HTML. You can even write LaTeX equations inside these markdowns. So this is the, I think, most important difference between other IDEs. By using Jupyter Notebook, you are creating notebooks that allow you to insert images, insert equations, etc. So it makes it easier to create some informative notebooks. If you are teaching something, it's really easy to use notebooks, which will both have some computer codes and some natural language, and also some data, some visualizations, whatever you would like to have. So this is the first basic introduction to Jupyter. Also, there are many shortcuts in Jupyter. How you can find them is by clicking on this help, and inside it you will see keyboard shortcuts, or you can just click on H in command mode. Then you will see different keyboard shortcuts for both command mode and edit mode. When you use Jupyter Notebook a lot, you will get familiar with them, and you will use them, which will make your work very faster. I don't know if I should go over for each of them, but I will just mention some of them while I'm writing code, for instance.
Yes, give us exercises, and we're going to learn
Sure.
while doing exercises.
Sure, yeah. So this was the last thing that I'm going to mention about Jupyter Notebooks. Then I will just go over errors in Python first, then importing and exporting files in Python. Let's start with the errors. About errors, one thing I should say before starting is, so I'm going to list some of the most common errors here, but what you should do when you encounter errors is to go Google them. You will probably some other people have already encountered with the same error, and people have solved their problem. So you should just go Google them and try to find the solution. But here are some of the most common errors. I have actually used this tutorial that I have included here to create this section. So let's start with this syntax error. Syntax error occurs when you did a typo, when you have written something in a wrong way, that's with an invalid syntax. For example, let's say you are writing an if condition. When you are using conditions, if else, elif conditions, you should use comparison operators. But here's an error where instead of a comparison operator, an assignment operator is used. So let me show the difference first. The single equation sign is an assignment operator in Python, which assigns this value 10 to x. I think this is the same in R, although there's one more common way to do this. But the double equation operator is the comparison operator. So this checks if this condition is true, if x is equal to 10. So when you are using if-else conditional statements, you should use comparison operator. And if you use the assignment operator, it will raise a syntax error. So as you can see, Python has these useful errors that shows you wherever your error is and whatever that error is. So it says it's a syntax error. You have an invalid syntax, and it is right here. So when you realize that, you can just add one more equation sign, and it will work. So this is the fixed version. So this was the first error, the syntax error. The second error is indentation error. So as opposed to many other languages, I guess, Python use white spaces to indicate blocks of code. So you should write your indentation, your white spaces, in a proper way. If you have written, for example, so if you are writing a for loop or if an else condition, if you haven't indented your second line under the for loop, you are going to see an error. So it says it is an indentation error, and Python expects an indented block right there. So you should put either 2 or 4 white spaces or a tab, and it will work. But you should make sure that your indentation is consistent. For example, you may use also 2 white spaces, it should also work. But then in the second line, if you have used 4 white spaces, let's say print s, it's again gives you unexpected init error because you are not consistent. You have used 2 spaces here and 4 spaces here, so you should be consistent. So let's move on. Another error is name error. Name error occurs when you have when you are trying to use a variable that you have not defined. Let's say, for example, it again is caused usually by typos. For example, in this example, so my variable is 5 is being assigned to my variable, but in the second line there is a typo, so it will raise the name error. So it says this variable is not defined because there's a typo. When you fix that, it will work. Another error, I think this is more common than the other ones, is type error. So types are actually referring to data types. We have seen them on the first tutorial of this bootcamp. So we have seen them on R, but Python also has data types. So basically, let me first show different types, different data types in Python. These are all 5. For example, let's do this 5.0. So these are all 5s, but this one is an integer, while this one is a string because it's inside quotation marks. So whatever is in quotation marks in Python is a string, but this one is a float because it has a point. It's 5.0. It could be another number, 5.7. So the type function in Python gives you the data type of the value you have. So type error occurs when you try to perform an operation on data of the wrong type. So if you have defined 2 different variables, one is a string and the other one is an integer, if you are trying to use the plus operator between them, it will give you a type error. Let's see. For example, this is the error you will get. So the problem is the operators come to mean operators work differently for different variable types. For example, for the integers, it will just mean 5 plus 5 is 10. For floats, it will mean the same. But for strings, it will concatenate them. Like 2 different strings are going to be put together. Again, it will work the same for other strings. So one way to solve this error is by using, for example, int function. So when you put this variable inside int function, it will turn the type, the string x to integer, and it won't give an error. Another error is index error. Index error occurs when you try to access an item in a list or other sequence using an index that is out of range. So basically, when you have 4 items and you are trying to reach the 5th item, which is actually, because Python is 0 index, this is the 6th item actually, it will give you an error. So let's see. It gives you, again, an index error, and it says list index is out of range. You can check the length of your list. It says you have 4 items, and actually, I think Fuat has already explained these quite well in his session. But when you're indexing lists, Python uses a 0 index, so this item 1 is actually on the 0th index. This is on the 1st index. It's on the 2nd index, etc. So you can just you should use the index that is inside the length of your list. Another error is key error. So the dictionary data types have key value pairs, and when you are trying to reach a key that a dictionary doesn't exist, you will encounter with key error. So let's say we have created a dictionary with key name and value John, key age and value 25, and you are trying to reach the key gender. Because this dictionary doesn't have a key called gender, you will come up with key error. You can check the keys of your dictionary by using keys method of dictionaries. And one way to solve this error is by using get method of dictionaries. So if you are using get, you can specify whatever you would like to return if the method cannot find the key inside this dictionary. So when I run this, it will look up to this dictionary. There is no key called gender, so it returns key not found. Or you can just create that key value pair you want. For example, I'm assigning male to the key gender. Then my dictionary is like this, and I have so the key gender returns male. The last error I'm going to talk about is attribute error. So attributes are the specific methods of data types. So if you are trying to access an attribute of an object that doesn't exist, you will come up with attribute error. So each data type, like a list or a dictionary, have their own attributes, and you should use them properly. Like, for example, here's a list, and lists doesn't have an attribute called add. So if you are using add attribute, add method on a Python list, you will encounter with attribute error. Instead of the add, you should use append. Append is a Python method, so you should use append, which will work. So this was the error part. Again, as I said, these are the most common errors in Python. You may encounter with some other errors, and what you should do when you encounter with them is to try Googling it. You will see some people have already asked them on Stack Overflow or some other forum, and that way you can solve the error that you have encountered. If we are doing fine, I can just quickly go over the importing and exporting section.
Let's take a break. Let's take a 10-minute break because lecturing is very tiring. You have to take 10-minute breaks every 50 minutes. So let's come back here at 8:10. Oh, sorry, I accidentally wrote to Leon. Let me write this to everyone. 8:10. Let's be here at 8:10.
Sharing the screen again. So we are done with the errors or exceptions, and I'm going to briefly talk about the importing and exporting files into Python. So there are many different file types that you can store your data on. You may use, I don't know, maybe if you are using a very big data, you may be using a database instead of a file. But most of the time, when data scientists are in their early stage of their career, there are specific file types that are commonly used. One of them is CSV, comma separated values files, and the other one is JSON. JSON was not in the email, but I wanted to mention it because especially for social media data, JSON is used a lot. So I wanted to talk briefly about JSON in this tutorial. So let's start with CSV. So there are actually several different ways to read CSV files inside in Python. You can just use base Python. Base Python has an open function which allows you to read any kind of file from your local machine, your computer. But most of the time, data scientists are using a library called Pandas, which is for data analysis. And Pandas has two functions, toCSV and readCSV. toCSV exports, writes the CSV file, and readCSV reads. So inside pandas, there's a data type called data frame, which is a tabular data type. You can think of like Excel sheets, and I think R has also data frame, so you should be familiar with it. So I'm going to just create a some random data and write that data to a CSV file and read back to the Python pandas data frame. So let's first import NumPy and pandas libraries. We have already installed them. I'm going to share this Jupyter notebook with you so you can rerun these codes on your own machine. So let me explain what I'm doing right here. I'm creating some random data by first using, so I'm separately creating columns. The first column is composed of random integers. So this NumPy library has this random module. Inside this random module, I can create random integers. So let me first show a keyboard shortcut of Jupyter Notebook. If you press Shift Tab inside when you are inside the function, it will show you the documentation. So you can read the documentation here from the NumPy's documentation is shown here. So it says the first value you enter is the low value, that is the low end. The second one is high, and the third one is size. So I want random integers between 1 and 100, and I want 24 of them. So this is the data I'm creating. I'm putting this data. First, actually, let me show this data to you, how it looks like. So this is just random values that is created by NumPy. So I'm putting this this NumPy array. This is an array data type of NumPy, but I'd like to put it inside a pandas series, which is very similar to array, but you can just name it. I'm giving it the name col1, referring to column 1. So what I'm doing here is creating a pandas series. So this is again randomly generated integers, but it has the name column1. So when I turn this pandas series into a pandas data frame, its column name is going to be column1. Just this is the reason why I'm using pandas series instead of NumPy array. So this is the first column I have created. It has integer 32 data type, which probably refers to 32 bytes, but this is not important for now. So this second one, I want to create a string data. So what I'm doing is again using NumPy's random module, but instead of random integer randint, I'm using the choice method. Choice method randomly chooses out of a list. So I have created a list of 2 genders. And I want to create a randomly generated array of them with the size 24. So it will again do the same thing. Let's see what it does. So it creates a 24 values of randomly generated 2 categories, and I'm calling it column 2. And for the third column, I want to create a date, a column with a type date. So pandas has a date range function, which creates dates that you have specified between certain 2 dates, and you can specify the frequency. I'm specifying it day, but you can, for example, say create a list of dates with frequency hour, etc. So let's see what it creates. Let me actually run this column. So I have created 3 columns, and I am using Pandas' concat method to concatenate these three columns, to put these three columns right after another. So this is what my data looks like. I have three columns, column 1, 2, and 3. The first one is integer, second one is a string or object in Pandas terms, and the third one is a date. So in order to write this data frame to a CSV file, as I said, you can use Pandas' toCSV method. So you can use this method on data frames. So I have called my data frame df. This is a convention in Pandas. You can call it whatever you want, but they are usually called something df. And I'm giving it the name, the file name data.csv. I'm also telling I don't want to write the index on my file. So let me show the index. So these are the index values here from 0 to 23. I don't want to print them. I don't want to write them on my file. So I specify index equals false. There are actually many other parameters that you can specify. For example, you may also don't want to write the column names to the file. One that I'm using a lot when I'm using with Turkish tweets, for example, is to specify the encoding. I'm specifying it UTF-8, for instance, etc. You can just check the documentation, as I said, and choose the whatever parameter you need. But these are the most basic ones. Specify the name, and most of the time you are not going to want the index. So let me first show. I'm probably sharing. Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. So here I'm right now in this directory, in this folder. When I run this code, it writes my data frame to this file. And in order to read this file, read the CSV file, you can use Pandas' read CSV method. Just give the name. Again, you can specify many other parameters. For example, you may have a very large file where you want to not read all of these data, but for example, start from the or maybe go to the 100 and 1000 row, but not for the rest. For example, you can specify certain things in here. You may specify the data types when you are reading these files. So again, as you see, this is how you can read. This is a different object I have created called df read. You can read CSV files by using Pandas read CSV method. So in the chat there is a question: how does Python know the working directory when opening a CSV? This depends on how you opened your Jupyter Notebook. So as I said, we have opened it either through Anaconda Navigator or Anaconda prompt. So when I actually opened it with Anaconda prompt, I think this is something I didn't show, but when I'm using Jupyter Notebook, I'm just going to the folder, going to the directory I would like to start my Jupyter Notebook on, and wherever your Jupyter Notebook is, right now it is inside this directory. That is your that's the directory you are in, and whatever action you are making is inside that directory. For example, if I wanted to, we have actually created another directory called untitled folder, and let's say if I wanted to write this file inside this untitled folder, I can specify it like this. So this time the file has been written to that folder. and I can specify inside here to read inside from that folder. You can do like you can write whatever wherever place on your computer you want. Just you need to just specify inside this first parameter. So I'm moving on to the JSON files. JSON files are again very common, especially for social media data. For example, Twitter API gives your data in JSON format, and JSON format is actually very similar to the dictionary data type in Python. And Python has a built-in module called JSON. Right now, I'm importing that module. You don't need to install that module because it comes with Python itself. So I'm creating again a random data. I'm calling it data. This is the variable name, and this is a dictionary. So in order to convert this Python dictionary to JSON, you can use JSON modules dumps method. So when I run this code, it creates a new variable called JSON data. You can call it whatever you want. And this is now in JSON format. Let's see them. So this is the data I have created. It's a dictionary. When I check the type, it says it's a dictionary. This is the JSON data I have converted by using JSON dumps function. So it's a string inside Python. So when I check the type, it says it's a string. So by converting it to a string or a JSON, I can now write it to a JSON file. It's the same for whenever you want to write something on a file on your computer, you use Python's with open function, specify W, which means write, and F is the name of the file, is the temporary name of the file that you are writing. So I'm just writing that JSON data to this JSON file I have created. So when I run this, it creates here a JSON file called JSON data. You could name it whatever you want. And reading is very much the same. Just instead of W as the second parameter, you're just writing R, which refers to read. And f.read reads that file, reads the JSON from that file, and I'm calling JSON read for now. So it is the same thing that we have written to the JSON data, JSON file, and you should use JSON.load method in order to convert that JSON to Python dictionary. So in this way, I have converted the JSON, which was a string, into a Python dictionary. You can now use this object as a dictionary. So that's all I am going to say about CSV and JSON files. If there's any question, I can answer.
Thank you so much. Let's do our categoristic labs. This was so useful. I will definitely go through the entire thing after this lecture. So where can we find this sheet? Are you going to send it to me, or is it? Okay.
However you want. I haven't yet shared it. I can send it to you.
Yes, please send it to me so that I can share with the rest of the group. Sure. Because I'm pretty sure they will want to return back to this and start from the beginning. I tried to follow, but since like I was typing very fast, I mistyped a lot of things. So I'm going to redo everything myself. I'm pretty sure the rest of the people will also do it again. I mean, think of it this way. From this point onwards, you're never going to teach these things again. You already have a video So you can just show it to your students and then work on more advanced things on top of this. Do we have any questions?
I do have one, if I
Yes.
may. It's about the general Python language. I am confused with this spaces and indentations. So I saw sometimes that this equal operators like equal sign can be written with blanks, spaces next to them, sometimes not. Is it something, there is some nuance or something to know there?
Space is actually most of the time optional in Python, but indentation, like when you are using if-else conditions, for loops, while loops, indentation should be consistent, and it should be spaced in a certain way, either by using 2 white spaces, 4 white spaces, or a tab. But as you said, sometimes, for example, let me reshare my screen to show. Like I can create a variable, let's call it a equals 3. So I'm sorry, I have just created a variable. I can do it in this way. I have just randomly written spaces, so this also works. It doesn't matter. So that's what I meant by spaces optional most of the time. But if you are again using if-else conditions, for loops, etc., you should write it in a certain way. You should especially be consistent with your spacing. For example, actually tab means for space, but Python may give you error if you have used tab in one indentation and for spaces in another indentation. So you should be. That's what I mean by consistent, being consistent.
Yeah, I see. And what about the apostrophes and the double quotation apostrophe? There is also one, the one that we write the strings with, the texts with, and the other then is something else, right?
They are interchangeable. They are useful when you are writing strings inside other strings. For example, you may, for example, there's something called f string in Python. If you have a variable, I have actually defined a variable a in here. Let's say I want to use this variable inside something in some string. I can use it in this way. But when I want to, for example, what is very useful for apostrophe and quotation marks in being interchangeable is that if you would like to use an apostrophe inside your string, for example, I say hello tree. So let me actually print that. So this way they are interchangeable. You can use whatever you want, but if you want to use apostrophe inside your string, inside whatever you want to print, you should use quotation marks outside of your string. But if you want quotation marks on whatever you want to print, you may use apostrophes outside of your string.
See. And last question, if I may.
Sure.
So I was trying to construct some kind of a dictionary, but I couldn't put more than one value to each key. Is it possible, or should I need to use something different than the dictionary?
Yes, if you'd like to use more than one value for a key, you should use a list or some type of array. I think that's the answer.
All right. Yeah, I'll try that.
Yeah, we have to look at your code as well. We have to see what you're doing. Maybe we can do it when we physically start the Summer Institute, so we can check your code. It would be much easier. In RStudio, for example, RStudio does these indentations itself. So you don't have to work on indentations. When RStudio recognizes something as something that needs indentation, it automatically does itself. If I recall correctly, PyCharm also did it automatically, but I need to, work with Jupyter a little bit more to see how that handles indentations. So
yeah, it's the same for most IDEs. It's also in Jupyter Notebook and VS Code, for instance. It does the indentations itself.
yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot of questions after people start doing this themselves and run into problems, including myself. So, Melih, thank you so much. This has been great and very, very useful. Two things. Of course, people who already know Jupyter did not come to this session, but if you need like a similar kind of introductory session for R, please email me. Otherwise, I am going to set up a WhatsApp group for all of you so that we can handle arrivals better. It's a better communication tool for quick communication because Sunday the 2nd is going to be very, very busy, as all of you, with the exception of 1 or 2 people, most of you will be arriving on Sunday. I will be there and my assistants will also be at Özin greeting you and showing you your dormitory rooms. But I think it's best if we just communicate with WhatsApp throughout the Summer Institute. It's the best. We tried Slack, we tried Discord, but people don't really use those in real time. So WhatsApp is really the best. I will send you a link soonish. Okay, thank you so much. Happy Bayram, everyone. Take care and see you. Bye.
İyi akşamlar.